Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I am doing another wrap-up today. So I'm wrapping up some of the other books that I read in January. I've already done some dedicated wrap-ups for the 2 readathons that I took part in this month. And I know I've done some separate book reviews on books that I really loved and I kind of wanted to talk enthusiastically about. And with those books, it's one of those things where you have like strong feelings in them, so you actually want to have an entire video, but also it's something that I want to do a bit more of, because I find I don't want to make these wrap-ups like too long, so I sometimes don't really get all of my thoughts across for the books. So what I want to do more of is kind of just do some individual like reviews on what I thought of some of the books. But I've got a bit of a pile here. So I'll start off actually with a book that I've just done an individual review about. So if you want to know more about this book over here, which is Wonder Woman Warbringer, please go to the separate review on this. But all I'll say about this is I didn't have any high expectations and I freaking loved it. I gave this book 5 stars, and it's an action hero book about Wonder Woman. And I didn't think I would love it as much as I did, but I loved this book. So go check out the individual review as to why I love this book so much. Then the next one I've got here is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is on my, I think, like top 19 books to read before January. I really enjoyed this. I have heard some mixed reviews, so it's an interesting concept. It's a man that wakes up in a different body every day because he has to solve the murder of Evelyn Hardcastle. And that's kind of all that I'm going to say about it, because if you say too much about the story, you really kind of ruin it. But I liked it. I found the format really interesting and different. It's not like anything that I've read before. I wouldn't have given it 5 stars. There were things that I was just a bit like, oh, not that excited about in the story. Some things that I guessed. Also, this had been sold to me a little bit like a sort of a gender bending or LGBT book as well. And it wasn't. He woke up in a man's body every time. So that may be a spoiler, I'm not sure, but if that's what you're looking for, and that's kind of, I genuinely thought that was, it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the book, don't get me wrong, that the concept in that was still interesting and was still a good book. I gave this 4 stars, but if you're looking for that kind of element, that isn't there. He stays a man throughout the entire book. There's no kind of any sort of diversity aspect to this at all. But still enjoyed it, and I love this edition with the, I'm a bit trash for sprayed edges, so yeah, this was a really good read. Then I went on a bit of a thriller type of binge, and I went and I read this one here, Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. Again, I've heard some people say they didn't enjoy the format of this. I really liked it. It basically tells a story backwards. So it starts off with the main character, and she is in Mexico, I believe, and she tells her story, but she tells it backwards. So at the end of the book, you get to where she started, to kind of where the beginning of the story is. I'm not making any sense, but yeah, it's told backwards, but I really enjoyed that. I think this book was really good. It was really clever. I enjoyed aspects of it. Again, there were some things that annoyed me a little bit in the writing, but other than that, 3.5, maybe even 4, just on pure kind of enjoyment level. I actually really enjoyed this one, and I'm presently reading another E. Lockhart book, Weoman, which apparently everybody says is better than this, so I'm expecting big things from that one. Then the next one, and this one I read right at the beginning of the month, is Never Let Me Go by Kasia Ishiguro. This is beautiful. This is a piece of literary fiction. Ishiguro won the Nobel Prize for Remains of the Day. It's a beautifully written book. It went somewhere that I didn't really expect it to go a little bit. So the premise of the story is you've got this group of children that are kind of in an elite boarding school. And it's about their relationships, and then it tracks them through life. It's beautifully written, it's fascinating. It made me think. 4.5 star read, definitely. Really would recommend this. It went on a bit of a, I suppose I would describe it as a literary fiction dystopian. That's kind of how I would class it. But I really enjoyed it, and I think it's definitely one that most people need to pick up. It really makes you think about the nature of life, what life is worth, what society deems worthy, and about friendship and love as well. Really, really good book. Then from the good to the not so good. So I read this beautiful, first of all, let's appreciate this gorgeous hardback edition of this book. This is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Now, I went on a bit of a binge of Alice in Wonderland retellings because I want to do a YouTube video on Alice in Wonderland retellings. So I read this one, and I read this one after Alice. Well, I say I read this one, I DNF'd this one about halfway through because I just couldn't take it. So that's my thoughts on this one. I can't star this. I just didn't like the writing. I couldn't get into the book. The premise of this one is that Alice's friend Dora also falls down the rabbit hole, so it's called After Alice. So it doesn't have all that much to do with Alice, but I did not like the writing. I might need to give this another go before I do my actual retellings video, but yeah, I didn't like this at all. This one, Heartless, I was expecting to really like it. The writing is quite beautiful. Marissa Meyer writes beautifully, but I had some real issues with the story. I found it's basically a retelling, well, not a retelling, it's kind of an origin story for the Queen of Hearts. But I found the character, I think her name is Kath, if I remember that correctly, I found her incredibly annoying. I also didn't like the romance. It was insta-love. It was a bit weird. I didn't like the fact that the decision that she makes at the end of the book and how she suddenly then becomes the Red Queen. Her motivations, I just didn't like the story. So I gave this 2 stars, and that's only for some of the quality of the writing and the descriptions in it, but yeah. But I think I'm still going to do a separate video on kind of all the Alice in Wonderland retellings I've read so far, but those 2 are not my favourite. Then the next one is The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. This was fantastic. So this kind of takes the premise of if you knew the day you were going to die, how would you live your life? How would that affect the decisions you make? How would that affect how you live your life? And you follow these 4 siblings, and they each get told when they're really quite young, I think the oldest one's only 11, the day that they're going to die. And then it follows them through their lives. Really, really makes you think, really fascinating, well written. There's another Chloe Benjamin book that I saw online that I'm going to get off the back of this one because I really enjoyed this. So again, 4-star book. It had some elements that I didn't enjoy quite as much, but so it's not 5 stars, but it's definitely a 4-star read, and it really makes you think, and it really makes you think about how you live your life. So if that's something you think about a lot, which I do, this book, really good. The next one is this one over here, is The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. I am slowly making my way through the Raven cycle. I read The Raven Boys in December. This was my read for January. I will definitely continue with the series. I do still like it. I'm not sure if I like The Dream Thieves as much as I like The Raven Boys. I don't know if this kind of suffers from second book in series syndrome, but it was good. I love Ronan. I love Ronan as a character, and I love kind of the kind of romance element that might be building up for Ronan, and I love Blue, but there wasn't much of Blue in this book. I think this one really focuses on Ronan, which is good, but so I'm kind of thinking of 3.5 stars, but I'm kind of feeling like this one is going to set us up for book 3, so hopefully, but I will be continuing with the series because I am really enjoying it, despite what I thought I was going to think of it. I really like the series. And then the last one is this one over here. It's Robin Talley's What We Left Behind. Again, I'm doing a whole video on Robin Talley because I've kind of read all the books now, I have them all, and I want to do sort of an author spotlight, so I'm going to go more in depth in this book. But again, I've read some really negative reviews on this, and I think I understand why, and I'll go more in depth in the in-depth video. All I'll say is that I think it really has some issues in it. It has some challenging language in it. It has some challenging viewpoints in it on non-binary and genderqueer, and I can see where some people get annoyed with it, but I actually thought it was an interesting discussion. And also, you do get people with those kinds of views, unfortunately, and I've encountered people with those kinds of views. It's not without its faults. I would say, it's difficult to rate. I'll probably give it a 3-star, but that's because there is that, I don't know, I don't even really want to star rate it, but I'm definitely going to do a Robin Talley video and kind of go more in depth into this and what I think of this, and also compare it against her other books, because I think what Robin Talley does really well is she writes young adult queer literature, but she really gets into some issues that you don't really see in a lot of young adult queer literature. So I think talking about non-binary and genderqueer and trans and what it means to transition and how those thoughts in people's minds, and I don't think you get that much of it in YA, so I really commend her for that. And then all of her other books as well, whether it be talking about, you know, safe sex for lesbians, which again you don't read much of in any books, never mind YA, about racism, about you know, homophobia. I think she really tackles some quite difficult issues, and she's also an own voices author, which I love. So yeah, look out for that video. So that was it for now. I will speak to you guys all again soon. Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye bye.